MVP 3.
Welcome back to Mecha Gaikotsu versus the backlog, and today I'm taking a look at a very new addition to the backlog, which is this right here. This is the 1/24th scale Hexagear V-Thor. Now, I have to say, this is probably the most giga-chattiest model kit I have ever seen in my life. Just look how kick-ass this thing is right here. Anyway, as usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, so link in the description. So before I say anything more about this particular kit, I highly recommend it. If you can, grab one now, because this thing is ridiculous. It's just over $50 or €50. It stands a full head and shoulders above a typical Bandai Master Grade. It's heavy duty ABS, and this is probably the greatest Hexagear kit going that I've seen anyway. It poses up a storm, it's rock solid, it is pretty much perfect in every way. But before I actually say anything more about this, in case you're not all that familiar with Hexagear, here's a quick summary. 1. This is a line of model kits made by Kotobukiya, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the best line by Kotobukiya. I love these kits. They're so good. 2. The hexa in the Hexagear is these hexagonal shape attachment points. So this just means that this whole line, you can grab different kits from different lines, slap them together. For example, this ridiculously cool Anubis someone on Twitter made, using this and another kit and then some paint. Awesome. 3. These kits have pilots. They're sold separately, they're called governors. These are 1/24th scale, just like the mecha themselves, and they can sit on or inside of them, which is really cool. They're a little finicky compared to the actual Hexagears themselves, but these are mad awesome. And lastly, this line has so much going on. You have my favorite kits, which, well, until this point were my favorite kits, which are the bulk arms, which are typical mechas. I'd throw this in with them. It's a bipedal mecha. You've got dragons, wolves, crabs, forklifts, everything. They're so cool. Get one. Probably this one. Anyway, into the aesthetics. So now jumping into the aesthetics, and you actually might be shocked and appalled to know that that is not actually an official Kotobukiya head right there. Anyway, popping that Gundam head off, and this is the actual head of this V-Thor right here. Now let's get into some size comparisons. So first up, beside an average high-grade Gundam model kit, so as you can see, this thing is big. There it is beside a average-sized Master Grade Gundam model kit, so it even outbulks a Master Grade. There it is beside another recent Kotobukiya kit, which is the Garuda Gear Beluga. And finally there it is beside a Hexagear bulk arm, so it's even hugely bigger than that. So anyway, now jumping into the full 360 spin of the Hexagear V-Thor, and I have to admit, this thing is blowing my mind. This has to be my favorite Kotobukiya kit of all time, now surpassing the bulk arm. This is such an over-the-top awesome design. It's very human and anatomical in a lot of ways. There's some elements here that look like musculature, especially in the purplish plastic, and this is ridiculous. Now, I'm going to wind back a little bit to the build. I don't actually have any footage, and in a way, this point is even going to prove to support the fact that this is a ridiculously awesome model kit. I built this on the couch watching TV. One snip per part, that was it. I just came in the door and I really wanted to get it built, and that's what I did. So I didn't spend any specific extra effort anywhere on this kit. Actually, I could almost say I half-assed everything, and there isn't a nub to be seen anywhere. The plastic on this is phenomenal. So first off, this is an ABS, so that does mean if you do want to paint this, there is some adherence issues when it comes to painting, so it just means more sanding, more priming, etc. if you do want to paint it. But when it comes to the actual straight built kit, it is phenomenal. You'll see the occasional nub here and there on the inner frame. I might go back in later on and actually deal with those. But for the most part, there is nothing here. Everything snips off super clean, super beautifully. The plastic here is rough, tough, and this holds together so nicely. This is a fantastically designed kit. I love this to pieces. But yeah, anyway, as for the plastics in here, we've got a metallic injection gunmetal for all the inner parts. We've got a nice cream armor on the outside, which is matched with some very dull purplish gray. I guess a grayish purple. This is a cool color scheme and actually matches this governor perfectly. So let's get the governor in there. So in order to get the governor figure in there, this opens up in a really cool way. This opens up in the back, unlike the bulk arms, which open in the front. We've got two main points of articulation in the back, which move the back out of the way, and then one main point which will move the whole upper chest part forward. Inside of that, then we've got a little, what I assume is the controls, made out of a nice bit of clear blue, and we've got essentially like a motorcycle seat for the governor to sit into. It just sits onto that. This is a whole lot simpler than we would have seen with the bulk arm. There's nothing for it to actually hold onto. There's just two cups the hands go into, which is so much simpler. And actually getting this in here isn't too bad. Because I did mention before in some of these reviews, I do find these governors themselves very finicky, easy to fall apart, hard to pose, so getting this in is nice and simple this time around. Once you actually close this all up with the governor inside, you can actually see its head looking out from underneath the head, which is a very cool effect, and moving the head down over its head then, I guess gives it a little bit of extra armor. This worked so well. I'm impressed. So now getting it up on the shelf for that shelf presence test. This is a good deal bigger than your average sized master grade, but if you're popping it in with some large scale kits like perfect grades or large master grades, it might get a little bit lost. But still, it holds its own due to its sheer size. The color looks really good, and finally when you do get this into the hand as well, this is very, very rock solid. There's no drop, no nothing. This won't lose a pose at all because of that rough and tough ABS, but at the same time, it's not too heavy. This is one impressive model kit without a single doubt, and we still haven't checked out what it comes with, so on to the accessories. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything the Kotobukiya V-Thor comes with, and this is quite the decent little set right here. First up, we've got two of these kind of binder segments which work as rear binders, thrusters, or you can combine them into a shield. We've got an absolutely giant katana style sword in here with a scabbard option, as well as a long range weapon, once again with an alternate barrel option. And as for hands in here, we've got a grand total of 8. That's the 6 you're seeing right here, and the 2 already attached onto the V-Thor. Once again, nice set of accessories. Now let's check them out one at a time. So the first of the accessories we have in here are these kind of binder segments. So we do have a few options with these. These do have a nice extending gimmick. So there it is, extended all the way. Can close up just like so. And we do have an attachment point here, which is one of these Hexagear hexagonal shaped joints. I'll also mention before I actually put it where the instruction says to, that any of these hexagonal holes should be to some degree compatible with this particular joint. The same goes for any other Hexagear kits out there. So that does mean if I attempt to stick it up into the shoulder here like some kind of shoulder binder, that should work, and indeed it does. Let's just readjust the joint a little bit. There we go. So yeah, if you wanted to attach these onto the shoulders or anywhere else, the upper back or something like that, you can do just that. I'm just gonna actually spin these around so they're a little, ooh, slide that down, bring it up, slide this one down. That actually works out quite well, almost like a pair of kind of wings up on the shoulders, or like a Zaku shield. So yeah, attaching these anywhere is simple enough. As long as you've got a hexagonal hole, you can just shove it on in there. The ones that the instructions say to attach it into are on the lower back right here. These attach in perfectly. Getting this into a pose with these attached is also super simple too, because this kit is weighted so perfectly and the joints are good and strong. Anyway, there it is in a little bit of a pose of what it would look like, almost ready to actually blast off into the air with, I assume, some thrust from these badass looking bits right here. Now, we'll mention one thing, and yeah, in here we do get a little bit of a base adapter segment. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this is for using with, so you just pop it into the crotch hex like this, and now we've got a little hole segment, which is about, I'm guessing, 4mm or so. Now, this doesn't fit any action base or stand that I have, and while I was actually trying stuff out, I did realize that Bandai's action base does actually fit into the actual hex holes. So if you are actually looking for a workable stand for using with this particular kit, Bandai's action bases, I think that's the 4 and the 5, actually have a hex tip which fit perfectly in. This isn't up in the air in a pose. This thing has such fantastic articulation that this just looks so good. So yeah, if you're looking for a good, reliable stand for using with a Hexagear kit, Bandai stands do work. So now moving on to the hands, and like I mentioned, we've got 4 pairs in here for a grand total of 8 hands. What we've had on here the whole time is the widespread open ones, and these are very, very nicely designed compared to a lot of kits we would have seen from Kotobukiya before, where the hands definitely need a little bit of cement or glue out of box to stop them falling apart. These are designed very, very well. Removing them and detaching them is simple. They actually attach via a peg from behind like so, and reattach on the exact same way. Now this does give them a lot of articulation besides some flexion and extension to the front and back, so that can be a little bit limited to some degree, but it's worth it for the stability here. So what we have in here is some of these widespread open ones, a pair of fists just like so, and finally then we have holding hands, trigger finger for the long range weapon, and non-trigger finger for using with the sword. Let's check those out. So first off in here we've got the sword, and this thing is absolutely and utterly, well, long. Not necessarily huge, it's just mainly long. The blade right here is made out of a nice shiny injection silver. Then we've got the gunmetal hilt segment here, and we've got a guard in a little bit of gold. Simple, but effective. For using then with that, we've got this really cool looking scabbard. This has a real kind of almost like tech kind of feel to it. So it's not really very traditional looking, it's very robotic, which I really like. We do have a little bit of a articulation point up here for mounting this up on the unit, and of course this is a scabbard, so it does what a scabbard does. We also have another mounting point here if you want to mount it elsewhere. Then besides this one right here, actually, let me guess. Yeah, we've got 2 mounting points depending on what direction you want to mount it. So I'm guessing this one right here is for if you want to mount it on a hip, and then this one right here is if you want to mount it up on the back. Anyway, the blade can attach into that ever so simply. It just slides down in like this. Some of the blade is left exposed like so, which is pretty cool as well when this is attached into it. And anyway, let's try this on. So as for attaching the scabbard, we've got these points around the back. You can probably plug these little guys into anywhere on this. There's loads of different places that would work perfectly. For example, we do have one of these holes inside of this hex point right here on the leg if you want to mount it on the hip. And then this just attaches onto that just like so. We do have a little bit of articulation here, which allows it to move out and in like so, and lots that allow it to come up over the shoulder so it can be grabbed onto by the V-Thor just like so. So it can actually reach its weapon, which always makes me happy. So as for getting this attached into the hands, it's super simple. Just pull it out of that sheath just like we would have put it into it, as you would expect. Attaching it into the hands then requires the holding hands. These actually work very, very well. Again, the hands in here are better than your average Kotobukiya kit by a long shot. You just pop off the fingers, get the sword into the hand, slide the fingers back in again. These hold perfectly nice and strong, and then attaching this onto the mecha is simple. Once again, just pop off a hand. It's a peg attachment, pops on perfectly. Getting this into a pose is nice, fluid, strong, and it has a great center of balance just because of those really uniquely designed feet. There it is in a bit of a pose holding onto that sword, and it looks absolutely astounding. This thing is lengthy, awesome, and really damn cool. Honestly, this is absolutely kick-ass. It's a big-ass sword. Anyway, on to the next accessory. So the next weapon we have in here is the HD Plasma Cannon, which is this very nice weapon. Once again, a whole bunch of modular parts. This little ammo clip segment can just be popped off just like so. The barrel is very easily removed. We do have an alternate barrel in here, which I'll take a look at in a second. And as for attaching this, compared to the sword, this is a little bit awkward to get into the hand. I recommend actually taking the magazine drum away from the front in order to line it up. It's a bit of a balancing act and it kind of falls all over the place when you're trying to actually lock the fingers in, but once you do, this holds on quite well, and that right there is what it looks like once it's attached on into the arm. This is a very, very nice looking weapon, and we do have some options in here. So we do have an alternate barrel, which is easy to pop off. You just pop off this barrel like so and attach it on. This is all in gunmetal like the rest of the weapon besides the drum, but it does look a little bit anemic in comparison, I do feel. Mainly because the Gatling is just an open end like this that looks like it's missing something. And it was nice to have the extra bit of color from the other barrels. So personally, I prefer the other one compared to this. So just like with the sword, we do have an adapter segment right here with the exact same joint setup and a new top right here for attaching this onto when it's not in use. Just towards the stock end of this attaches onto that just like so, and it holds on perfectly. Once again, able to pop up into position so the V-Thor can reach back on over its shoulder and grab on just like so. So the last thing we can do in here is actually quite cool. Those binders or thrusters we had round back are actually usable for a couple of other things. Just pop them off like so. If you open up one of them, pop off this little armor plate, you can flip this segment around, which actually changes the little connection points up top. Now you can actually connect the both of these together into a big old shield. We've got a bit of a handle attachment that can attach on there. That goes into one of the standard holding hands, like the one we're using to hold on to the sword. And then you can just pop that on just like so for a big old shield. Now this has a lot of smart, intelligent articulation to it. So you can have it upright like this, off to the side, tilt it whatever way you want for whatever pose. This has been so creatively and expertly designed. So the last aspect in here is one of the craziest ones. So we do get a little bit of a postcard included in here like you usually do with these Hexagear kits. And now what we've got going on in this particular picture is the fact that this thing is surfing through the clouds, yeah, on a surfboard, made out of the shield. Let's get her done. So in order to do this, it's exactly like it was with the shield, except you pop off these two inner plates like so, slide it wide open like this, and then you lock this open with the two plates like this on the underside. We've got two joints in here we can attach into the far ends of this particular shield. On the bottoms of the feet, we've got this kind of almost like a polycap joint, and you just attach the pegs into those holes, and there you go. This holds on perfectly, looks ridiculous, but at the same time awesome, and there's such perfect, great articulation in here that's smooth and perfect in absolutely every way that you can get the best possible surfing pose out of this mecha, which is both ridiculous and awesome at the same time. I just love the way the toes bend, everything in here. It's ridiculous. So anyway, finally now moving into the articulation and getting this into the usual pose I use to test a kit's full articulation. And this kit destroys it absolutely in a way I never thought possible. This is up there with some of Bandai's best. The real grade God Gundam, any other kit by Bandai that has ridiculous articulation, if I remember off the top of my head, maybe the high grade Destiny, the real grade, I nearly said the real grade God Gundam again, I meant the high resolution. Sure, this thing has it all in bucket loads. Kotobukiya has done it. They've made a perfect kit, an absolutely perfect kit. It can pose up any storm. This thing's got individually moving toes. Everything's rock solid, it holds together, it will hold every pose. It looks phenomenally gone mad here. It's anatomically correct in a whole lot of ways, in a human sort of way. This is gone above and beyond anything Kotobukiya has ever done before, that I have ever laid my hands on. They've done it. They've made the perfect kit. This is Gundarium tier. I don't even know what to say. This is phenomenal. If you really want to try out a perfect kit, 10 out of 10 in every aspect, this is one to try. It's so goddamn good. Honestly, my mind is blown. I thought it looked cool, but I did not expect it to be this perfect. My brain is broken now. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much to Hobby Link Japan for sending this on to me. If you want one of your own, link in the description. As always, I will see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lauren Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.